Formula 1 has always been a sport where split-second decisions can make or break entire seasons, and sometimes it's the clever strategic moves rather than pure speed that becomes the stuff of legend. You might recall how George Russell pulled off a masterstroke last year, managing to finish ahead of Lewis Hamilton without changing tyres, only for the dream to collapse when his car was found underweight, leading to disqualification. Moments like these underline that in F1, brains can sometimes matter more than brawn. Today, we dive into 6 examples where drivers made extraordinary IQ moves that ended up paying massive dividends, and in some cases, shaping history. When you think of Sebastian Vettel's early career, words like cunning and precision come to mind, and nowhere was this more evident than Monza in 2010. Red Bull entered the Italian Grand Prix with plans for a conventional strategy, expecting Vettel to pit around lap 14 or 15. Yet, in a move nobody saw coming, Vettel stretched his opening stint all the way to lap 52, running a near-complete race distance on the same set of Bridgestone softs. In a high-speed track like Monza, tyre preservation is a monumental challenge. But Vettel exploited clear air to perfection, maintaining impressive lap times while those around him struggled with traffic and tyre degradation. He was initially running 7th, but the brilliance of his approach became obvious as the laps wound down. He was easily able to jump Nico Hülkenberg's Williams and Robert Kubica's Renault. However, it was a close call against Mercedes' Nico Rosberg and even his own teammate Mark Webber. Late race traffic worked to Vettel's advantage. Rosberg, who was being pressured by Webber, lost valuable seconds navigating back markers, precisely the opening Vettel needed. When he finally pitted for the mandatory tyre change, Vettel rejoined ahead of them both, securing 4th place. While it might not have looked like a race-defining result on the day, those extra points played a crucial role. Vettel ultimately won the 2010 World Championship by just 4 points. Without this strategic masterclass at Monza, history might have looked very different. In Monaco, rain is the ultimate wildcard, and Mika Salo, driving for the underdog Tyrrell team, delivered a masterstroke that remains one of the best examples of strategy triumphing over raw pace. The race was marred by intermittent rain, and the slow pace meant only 62 of the scheduled 78 laps were completed within the 2-hour limit. Recognizing the unique conditions, Tyrrell made the bold call to attempt the entire race distance without a pit stop. With the underpowered Ford V8 engine already offering decent fuel economy, Salo was instructed mid-race to make dramatic changes to his driving style to stretch his fuel. He reduced the fuel mix, coasted through corners, and generally stayed off the throttle whenever possible. "I didn't think we were going to make it," Salo admitted later, recalling how shredded his tyres were towards the end, and how he barely avoided the walls when the rain returned. Yet, somehow, he hung on, fending off a charging Giancarlo Fisichella in the Jordan to finish 5th. It wasn't just a smart drive, it was Tyrrell's only points finish of the season and the last in the legendary team's history. When it comes to tactical brilliance, Michael Schumacher's win at Magny-Cours in 2004 is hard to beat. Starting second behind Fernando Alonso, Schumacher was initially held up by the Renault driver's excellent early race pace. But Ferrari had a secret weapon, a daring 4-stop strategy, something almost unheard of at the time. Realizing that clear air was critical, Ferrari pulled Schumacher in for his second stop on lap 29 with a light fuel load, committing to 4 stops instead of the conventional 3. Alonso responded by pitting earlier than planned, but still aimed for 3 stops. The twist came when Schumacher, running lighter and faster, made up the deficit almost immediately. Despite spending over 15 seconds more stationary in the pits than Alonso across the race, Schumacher's relentless pace allowed him to leapfrog the Spaniard after the final round of stops. He crossed the line with an 8.3 second advantage, turning a risky gamble into a strategic masterclass that underlined why Ferrari's 2004 campaign was one of utter domination. Sometimes, the most brilliant strategies are born out of necessity. In 1958, Stirling Moss, racing a lightweight but underpowered Cooper Climax for Rob Walker's privateer team, knew he couldn't match the raw speed of the Ferraris with their larger 2.5-litre engines. Yet instead of despairing, Walker and Moss devised an ingenious bluff. They made it publicly known that a tyre stop would be necessary, especially since the Cooper's 4-stud wheels made pit stops painstakingly slow. However, behind closed doors, the plan was to complete the race without stopping at all. Moss took the lead when Juan Manuel Fangio pitted, and while Ferrari's Luigi Musso soon realised that Moss wasn't planning to stop, it was too late to respond. Driving with extraordinary delicacy to preserve his tyres, even seeking out oil patches to reduce grip and lessen tyre wear, Moss clung to his lead and crossed the finish line less than 3 seconds ahead. It was the first F1 win for a mid-engined car, and arguably one of the smartest victories in the sport's history. Chaos often rewards the clever, and no Grand Prix better illustrates this than Brazil 2003. The rain-soaked Interlagos circuit turned the race into a demolition derby, with multiple crashes and numerous safety cars. Giancarlo Fisichella, piloting a Jordan, made a bold and controversial call early in the race. Despite holding 8th under the initial safety car, Fisichella ignored his instinct to stay out and instead followed team orders to pit on lap 7. The thinking was simple but brilliant. Fuel the car heavily enough to reach 75% race distance without another stop, the point at which a red flag would make the race results official. As conditions worsened, chaos ensued. Fisichella stormed through the field, eventually overtaking Kimi Räikkönen for the lead. Just moments later, a terrifying crash involving Mark Webber and Fernando Alonso brought out the red flag. Initially, Räikkönen was incorrectly declared the winner, but after a week-long review, Fisichella was rightfully awarded his maiden F1 victory. It remains one of the most remarkable underdog wins ever seen. The 2013 Canadian Grand Prix served up yet another reminder of why Fernando Alonso is considered one of the sharpest minds to ever sit in a Formula 1 cockpit. In a moment that casual viewers might have missed but seasoned fans savoured, Alonso demonstrated world champion level intelligence, not with a spectacular dive bomb or a daring lunge, but with pure brainpower. Chasing down Lewis Hamilton in the closing stages of the race, Alonso had the pace to make the overtake. But instead of pulling the trigger at the first opportunity, he played the long game. Knowing exactly where the DRS detection point was located, just before the final chicane, Alonso deliberately backed off ever so slightly. It wasn't hesitation, it was calculated precision. By staying behind Hamilton at the detection line, Alonso ensured he would get DRS, not just for the start-finish straight, but also through the following straight after turn 1. Double DRS zones, maximum advantage. The move paid off perfectly. Armed with the DRS boost, Alonso pulled off the overtake cleanly and decisively, setting himself up for a critical second-place finish in Montreal. It was a moment that underlined just how multi-dimensional racing at the top level can be. It's not just about raw speed or bravery, but about awareness, strategy, and patience under pressure. And to be fair, Hamilton wasn't sleeping either. It was world champion level thinking from both drivers. Hamilton defended hard but cleanly. Alonso attacked smartly without taking unnecessary risks. Pure motor racing at its finest. Back in 2007, Lewis Hamilton was not yet the global icon and 7-time world champion that we know today. He was simply a hungry, fearless rookie looking to carve his name into Formula 1 history. And during the Brazilian Grand Prix that year, Hamilton delivered a move so perfectly timed and executed that it went on to define a crucial part of his racing DNA, the famous dive bomb. It was lap 47 when Hamilton found himself behind the experienced Rubens Barrichello. At that moment, many expected the young Brit to play it safe and wait for a mistake, but Hamilton had other ideas, ones that would set the tone for the rest of his career. Launching a daring late braking move from what seemed like an impossible distance, Hamilton caught Barrichello completely off guard. Some purists argued that this wasn't a traditional dive bomb, but rather an intelligent, calculated move, a blend of raw aggression and precise control that only someone of Hamilton's rare talents could pull off without chaos. Critically, this wasn't just a reckless lunge. Hamilton somehow managed to brake late from miles back, slow the car down perfectly in time, hug the inside line cleanly, and, importantly, leave enough room for Barrichello to still attempt a fight back around the outside. Both cars made the corner without any contact, no one was forced off track, and no controversial steward investigations were needed. Just pure, brilliant, opportunistic racing. Barrichello, a seasoned veteran, simply didn't see Hamilton coming. In the blink of an eye, he was outmaneuvered, cleanly passed without even the chance to defend. It was a move that showcased all the hallmarks of what would become Hamilton's signature style. Fearless under pressure, surgically precise, and ruthlessly effective when an opportunity presented itself. Looking back, it's moments like these that remind us of what motor racing used to be before every pass was scrutinized under a microscope. It was about bravery, about reading the race and seizing the moment with skill rather than relying on regulations to sort things out. Hamilton's 2007 Brazilian GP move was a perfect blend of instinct and racecraft, setting a standard for the countless breathtaking overtakes he would produce throughout his record-breaking career. Last but certainly not least, Gerhard Berger's 1986 triumph at the Mexican Grand Prix showcased a strategy so bold that even today it would be considered radical. Starting fourth, Berger, driving for Benetton, adopted a no pit stop strategy, an incredible risk considering the scorching heat and abrasive circuit. While rivals like Alain Prost, Ayrton Senna, and Nelson Piquet were forced into pit stops to change tyres, Berger pressed on. Not only did he manage his tyres perfectly across the entire race distance, but he did so on a completely unique setup, different compounds on each corner of the car. This experimental approach, matching tyres precisely to the loads each corner of the car would experience, required meticulous precision, both in tyre selection and in setting the right pressures. Somehow, Berger and his Pirellis held together, and he romped home with a stunning 36-second margin of victory, claiming both his and Benetton's first ever Grand Prix win. What's your take on these genius strategic masterclasses? Were they calculated risks or strokes of sheer luck? Let us know in the comments below. And while you're at it, don't forget to like and subscribe for more fascinating F1 stories.